Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show, coming on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app to your smartphone so you can stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. Can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today, and as the spirits continue to drive me on this journey after 4,000 primary source interviews on the radio and on Facebook Live and in person, oftentimes I get a chance, people come across my radar, mercurial composers and musicians that I try to reach out to them, but they have very little online presence. They're shrouded in mystery. And yet you know that they've had a huge impact on increasing the musical vocabulary on the bandstand. And by happenstance, I was on assignment in the Bay Area over last weekend and had a chance to I looked up what was going on in Oakland, and it said late night jam with my next guest in a trio form at Piedmont Piano Company. And I was just I was just delighted because I had not only a chance to meet him, but an opportunity to really see him play as on the piano, really stretch, and then also demonstrate his chops on the trap set as well. And you know, he's recorded a lot. He's done a lot. He's been on both coasts, and what a high honor. Art Lande, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks, Jake.
You know, did you recognize what we played coming in?
No.
That was
What was that?
That was, believe it or not, you got up from the drum set that after that tune and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are dead." That was the Sly Fox, Larry Dunlap. I think it's.
That's funny.
I'm trying to remember. What was it? Wataka? Who's the bass player? The white cat.
John Wittala.
John Watala and Art Lande on drums playing brushes, burning on the drum kit, and I'm like, and then I look at your card and it says drums, piano, tarot cards, etc. So, I mean, can you just talk about, were you getting off on Philly Joe and Kenny Clark? Can you talk about the evolution of your drumming?
Oh, I always loved the drums. I wouldn't say those would. I would say Blakey and Max Roach would be stronger, and Roy Haynes from the, what excited me about the drumming. And I thought that the piano was the least interesting instrument for me to listen to. It seemed back in the bebop era especially that the piano players were not very interesting to me, except Monk. And so I would identify more with the drumming and the horn players, maybe even a lot the trumpet players. And I remember one student of mine saying that the way I play piano sounds like a trumpet player trying to play the drums.
Well, it's interesting because most people's influences on what they're known for, on the piano, their influences are not pianists. They're horn players, sax players, trumpet players. So to me, it's like, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is I'd like you to talk about, what I have a big problem with today is going to see live music. It's not sit-down music. I even think the other night that music is dance music, whether people think that or not. But what we saw at the Piedmont Company. But I just hear pulsating bass drums, four on the floor, double bass drums pulsating, machine parts being played by human beings. And you talk about Max and Blakey, they're two different styles, but can you talk in your own way about how you keep time on the cymbals and maybe use the bass drum for accents?
Well, the drumming changed all the music changed so much. You know, when the drumming opened up, you know, and I think Roy Haynes and Paul Motion, those were two of the ones who really began to open up the concept of how the drums functioned in the band. You know, I would say Bill Evans' bands were really important in that, where the roles of all the instruments became not so specific. The time belonged to the whole band rather than to the drummer. And the bass player was not always playing the lowest note and not always playing pulse. And everybody kind of worked together about motion. That's funny, it's Motion's name, but...
Yeah, right. Well, no, I mean, I think, are you referring to Motion, LaFaro, Bill Evans from the Vanguard? I mean, essentially, was there a conversation going on prior to the Hayneses and the Motions? Because that stuff to me is conversational. Bebop, I'm not enough of an expert on it. It seems like those guys were blown away and they were having a ball, but then it was a new language. And the big swing bands, the Four Brothers, for instance, that was just kind of burning big band music. But when you talk about opening up the drums, are you talking about the drums becoming part of the conversation?
Yeah, and even the drum set not being specific about the hi-hat on 2 and 4 and the bass drum being used in the old ways. I mean, the old 4 on the floor thing, and the cymbals always going ding-ding-a-ling and all those things. And also opening up into other rhythmic concepts besides swing, into the Latin music and finally the funk music, and also into music that was more oceanic, not pulsing but moving. Those things excited me. And maybe, Max Roach, the trio record with Sonny Rollins, was it called Freedom? You know that one? That was a great record.
Was it? I know records like Members Don't Get Weary, but Freedom. Well, Blakey did Freedom Riders, but you're talking about a trio with.
No, not that one. I went.
Let me look it up. But what was it?
That was the main theme. It was Freedom Suite.
Freedom Suite. Got it.
Yeah, I think that the way they spoke, it was real conversational. And that was new, just a level. And then having, bands without drums and stuff, some of Jimmy Jeffrey World and
that's right. Were you getting where were you? Because I've done two.
Band without piano. Things started opening, not being so set of what everyone did. People being able to. Horn players playing harmony and piano players, Paul Bley would be an important one in that, not playing conventional chords, not playing on the beats, but there being more, like you say, a conversation or an interaction or more trust about the music being communal. This is what interested me. The other felt a little like the industrial era of, you make the brakes and I'll make the windows, and we don't know what each other is
right.
doing.
Oh, man. Dude. I mean, you are waxing poetic very early in the morning here. I mean, where were you at? I mean, I've done 2 interviews with a cat you're very close with. He's a dear friend of mine, even though we've never met, is Steve Swallow. And when Jufrey all of a sudden, like I'll send you these interviews, although you don't have an email, so I can't send them to you. But I mean, Swallow talks about Jufri's, his road to Damascus, and the next thing you know, he's playing free music with Swallow and Blay. And I mean, were you getting off on those records? I'm not sure how old you were in about 61, 62.
Not so much at that time. Steve and I had a band together in 1970. And Steve...
What are you talking about? I need to hear about this band. Wait a minute. This was out in Bolinas?
Yes.
Oh, my. Please, the floor is yours, Landy. Go ahead. I'm obsessed with Bolinas. I need to know what this band is.
Well, Bolinas was amazing because Paul McCandless, who became a lifelong friend, and Swallow, and Glenn Cronkite, who became the drummer in the Rubisa Patrol band all through the 70s, and Bill Connors, the guitarist who ended up playing with Chick Corea and making his own records for ECM, all lived in this house in Bolinas. I was living in Berkeley. For a year or so, and then started meeting these people, and then that became a quintet with Mel Martin and Glenn Cronkite, eventually Elliot Zygmunt, who ended up in Bill Evans' band, and Swallow. And Swallow was amazing. I mean, now we've reunited and we've made 2 records in the last couple of years and done some tours with Mike McGinnis's saxophone and clarinet player from Maine, actually, but he lives in New York. But at that time, Steve was defending his right to never play the acoustic bass again.
I know he's an adamant. He is a true believer in the electric bass. I just want to read you this before you go.
He changed the electric bass. He made it into a jazz instrument. I mean, he pretty much single-handedly did that. I mean, there are other people who came along with that, but was in the band with me where he tells me that was the first chance he had to really create his own style on that instrument. And people would come up to me and say, make him play the acoustic. The reason that Steve didn't like playing the acoustic anymore, Steve is a thin, he's not a big guy, and he always felt like it was unwieldy for him. It wasn't streamlined the way he wanted to play, and so I said he doesn't play that anymore. If you don't like that, go elsewhere. Because I felt really great playing with him, and the time feel that we got was so interesting, different. I wouldn't even call it walking what he does.
Oh, no, this is blowing. Wait, hold on. I want to be clear about this. McCandless,
that we made, that was so fantastic.
Elliot Zygmunt, McCandless was in the band or not?
No, Paul was still a hobo player at that point.
So it was Mel Martin, Landy.
Mel Martin, who passed away.
Oh, I've interviewed Mel. I got to send you all these interviews, but you got to tell me how to get, because you're going to be cracking up. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I've done 4,000 radio interviews. I'm finally getting to Landy. I want to read you this quote from my second interview with Swallow, and you can riff on this. He said, I connected with Vecchio Nanner, otherwise known as Lowell Levenger, from Jesse Colin Young's band when I moved to Marin County in 1970. I moved to a legendary town called Bolinas. It was full of poets. Robert Creeley, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Joanne Kiger, Gary Snyder would come through there all the time. It was an incredibly vital scene, and he's talking about, he goes, I got to hang out with the Jefferson Airplane. I went to lots of Grateful Dead concerts. I was also playing with Art Lande and Mike Knock. So there was also a jazz scene, a very fluid movement back and forth between various scenes. Elliot Zygmunt was the drummer at that time. Now,
yes, see, we had the same rhythm section. Knock and I were really good friends. We played tennis all the time, and if I had rehearsal with Elliot, And Steve, I'd have to say, do you need those guys tomorrow? I said, no, you can have them, And so we had both were playing with those two guys,
The idea there is like, did you actually wind up in situations where you were, I've talked to guys like Marty Ballin, rest in peace, from the Jefferson Airplane. He'd walk downstairs in his parents' apartment, and Lord Buckley was riffing poetry behind a black jazz band. Did you have a chance to intermingle with the multi-dimensional poets of that time, especially because of No.
It's funny, not too much then. Michael Wochuk, who's my dear lifelong friend that I met on the basketball court in the early 70s and now lives here and made the tarot cards with me that I created and is making my baseball game with me that I've created, card game, and did all, like, tons of album covers of mine, was a poet in those days in Berkeley, and he would do rap poetry with my band.
I need to hear tapes. First of all, you got to connect me with him, and second of all, are there tapes of this stuff?
Oh God, I don't know.
I mean, this is where it's at for Jake Feinberg, Landy. I mean, this is the most cutting edge. That's unbelievable. So what kind of, were you playing coffee houses? So I just want to be clear, when you couldn't make a gig or get over to that part of to get over to Bolinas, Knock would play in your place, or you play double pianos?
Oh, we did that too. No, we weren't playing in Bolinas. There was nowhere to play in Bolinas. We were playing in Berkeley and all kind of. There was a club called Steppenwolf. There was one called the Gack Scraggle out by the beach in San Francisco.
I mean, you are just making my day right now.
And then bigger venues too. I mean, we were the house band at the Great American Music Hall. We played every Tuesday night for years. So we were playing everywhere in the Bay. But Bolinas had storks and things, ibises, egrets.
No, dude, Walchak. What is it? Walchak is his name?
It's interesting because
go ahead.
When I first started coming to Boulder, Colorado, where I live now, it was because there was a summer jazz session that happened every year starting in the late 70s. And I was invited by Jerry Grinelli, this amazing drummer. I don't know if you know Jerry.
I've interviewed him 3 times.
Yeah, so Jerry was on the scene. It's funny because he soon moved when I got there because he was playing in the trio with Danny Zeidlin and Charlie Hayden.
He certainly was.
And me and Charlie and Jerry ended up having a trio.
Are you kidding me?
80s.
Are you kidding me?
No, we played a lot.
Because I know Grinelli also was with the indelible. He would play with Noel Jukes and Flip Nunez and Fred Marshall. I mean, and then Landy fits right. I mean, Landy
just gave me a tape of me playing with Fred Marshall and Elliot Ziegman and Robert Clare. Somebody gave me a CD.
Wait, hold on. I need to hear that immediately. Are you kidding me?
I didn't remember the session at all.
Oh my God. This is the most, I mean, you guys, is it fair to say, because that's the pocket of music that is just intoxicating. Fred Marshall was making his own instruments. He made some kind of instruments, and I mean, it just seemed to me like,
well, the Light Sound Dimension, right? Did you hear about that?
No, tell me about that.
A band called the Light Sound Dimension.
Can you break that down?
Light Sound Dimension. They played in Berkeley, and it'd be light shows and plus the music and a lot of other events going on at once. That was what Fred Marshall and Grinelli and Noel were doing a lot, which was pretty much all free music and visuals. So that was.
Well, and there was obviously quite a bit of psychedelics involved, I assume, as well.
Sometimes.
This is from one of my interviews.
Who was involved and what night it was?
So you'd have like, is it fair to say that, because I mean Jeremy Steig and guys that I've interviewed like Mike Mainieri on the East Coast, this is kind of still when you were actually still a young buck in New York, but
yeah, but I played with those guys too.
Who I know you played with everybody. But what I'm saying is at the time,
I was good friends with the Breckers, and therefore then Abercrombie and Swallow, and then Paul McCandless had moved to the Bowery, and there were amazing sessions of the loft scene when I was still in college and stuff in the early 70s.
Well, no, we're going to get to all this because I've interviewed, rest in peace, John Abercrombie. But because
but they would play, and Mainieri and all of them would just play all day.
Well, no, because I just want to ask you about this concept. Is we look at now in today's modern technology, it's called looping, and back then they did tape loops where Warren Bernhardt, Donald McDonald, Jeremy Steig, and Mike Mainieri would get together and they would cut up the tape of these different performances and intermesh it together and put it together, and then Jeremy would be doing painting on I'm not doing justice to it, but it was this multi-dimensional, way free kind of interpretation of all different types of multi-dimensional art. I mean, is that kind of what the band you just referred to with Fred Marshall and Grinelli was about too? I mean, was there was visual stimulation and music as well?
Yeah, I mean, we started combining the things, And when I started doing the Europa Summers, I played with Allen Ginsberg every year. He would rap with my band. And
this is what I'm talking about. You are this. Are you kidding me?
So we began to, have real strong interactions with language, with movement. I mean, I played with a lot of dance companies in my life, and that was also going on in Europa. They invented the contact improvisation, and Paul's wife was involved deeply with that. Robin Feld, creating this new form of improvisation, of staying in contact with the other person. Very free, beautiful form of dance that wasn't particularly a performance form, but we did concerts with them all the time in the summers. I mean, the summers here in Boulder were unbelievable. Who was here? This went on for years, and that was all Grinelli's baby. And we were teaching interarts things, teaching courses that had actors and poets and dancers and creating stuff with the students.
I mean, so you're telling me Grinelli and you were hanging out. You were both working at Naropa or Boulder.
Yeah, well, he was running the music program at Naropa. He and Bill Douglas, the other Bill Douglas, Boulder Bill Douglas, were doing that, and everybody was coming here in the summers. I mean, Peacock was here. Jay Clayton was here all the time, Abercrombie, Charlie Hayden, Julian Priester was here every summer.
These are all my buddies, man. I've interviewed.
Oregon band, Towner was here.
Glenn Moore, Towner,
Glenn
dude.
Moore, yeah.
Colin Walcott.
Yeah, Colin, the year before, the summer before he died.
Oh, just a trap. I mean, I've vetted. I want to.
Baby and all like this.
Well, that whole thing was. What's incredible is
stuff every day. We had a thing called the big class, 100 students. We'd just sit with them every morning and just say, what do you want to do? And somebody would say, I want to play a piece with 8 trumpets and drums. Okay, let's do that.
All right, I want to read you this quote from my first interview with Grinelli. He said, Fred Marshall came up to me one night and said, man, you've got to come over. I went over and he told me he had a dream that he built this instrument. He took a rebar. It had 8 strings and a fretless metal fretboard. the bottom four strings were tuned like a bass, and the top four strings were tuned in quarter tones, and he put pickups on it. He didn't even know how to play it. He just started playing electronic drums to figure out ways to amplify the drums. Noel was sticking things in his saxophone. Flip was messing with keyboards. Fred's wife, Beverly Bivens, who had been with the Wee Five, dropped out and started screaming into microphones. That automatically hooked us into the Haight-Ashbury scene and the music of the Dead. To me, when I heard you the other night at the Piedmont Company, even though it was essentially just a trio, I was hearing all different styles of music, and I'm curious about your interactions with the psychedelic area. I mean, you came out a couple years after the Summer of Love, but it was still, I mean, you had the Happy House going on with Dewey Redmond out there, and, you know, Lee Charlton was playing with Henry Grimes, and, I mean...
I played with all those people.
I mean, we're brothers that never... We're just brothers from, that we're just connecting in contiguous orbits. So can you talk about some of the other genres that you found yourself in when you got out there, aside from maybe just sort of experimental jazz?
I was just thinking about Marty Balin's father was the manager of my band.
No way. There's Marty. Marty Balin's talking to me about Lord Buckley. He's a high school kid. He's going into his basement, and there's Lord Buckley at a party for the King and Queen of Reno, riffing with a black jazz band behind him. I'm like, this is the greatest. This is Americana to me. I mean, that's unreal.
It's never been about that for me or any of these people that you're talking about. But we don't care about that. We care about, let's play today. Let's make something together. We didn't care whether the person comes out of rock music or out of Indian music or out of no music at all, out of poetry, out of dance. We'd meet and we'd say, what can we make? And so it wasn't about jazz or rock or Indian music or bebop or progressive weird. It wasn't trying to be weird. It was actually just trying to be present.
I love this. And God, you're nailing this, dude. You're nailing it.
As people, and to find out what to give each other the freedom to create and to play how you really play, and how you want to play now. It wasn't anything about some contrived thing of mixing genres or mixing ages or races or different arts. It was, let's play, let's make something, let's be together, let's find out what is satisfying and exciting and interesting and honest. It's not, then the things that come out of that, people label those things, but we weren't thinking that way.
Yeah, no, let's be clear. It's not people, it's journalists, and I would have abhorred myself if I had called, I mean, your dear friend Eddie Henderson and my friend, he would say that when he would go see Coltrane play, you know, when he started doing modal music, people would be booing. Women would be screaming, make him stop, make him stop. And that music became termed hate music. And I just would have hoped that I would not have been a conduit for that labeling. I definitely try to come out of the Nat Hentoff school where it's all music, Bob Dylan to Charlie Mingus.
It's just, I'll tell you what I do if I do a workshop, which I do often, and you said coast to coast. I toured Europe 34 years in a row. I recorded and played every little village all over Europe for forever. But when I do a workshop with people I haven't met, whether it's in New York or in Switzerland or in San Francisco, the first thing I say, I'm going to play something now, and I play just openly, just not a song, whatever is in my heart. And I say, I'd like you to put 3 things away that are going to come up for you. They're not bad things, but if you want to have an actual experience and you want to meet the music with your real being, here's what you need to put away. You need to put away these judgments. Just put them in a drawer. It's like, do I like this or not like it? This judgment of like or not like it. And I say, imagine you're meeting another human being for the first time. And in the first 10 seconds, they decide whether they like you or not. If you sense that or you sense that about another person, all that is your prejudice. It has nothing to do with that person at all. It takes a while to meet somebody. So put aside whether you like it or not, because even if you like it, then you're thinking, I like it, and you're not really present. You've already decided something. So put that away. Then the second thing is what kind of music is it? You know, is this jazz? Is it classical music? Is it modern free music? Is it bebop? Is it rock and roll? Is it whatever? Put that aside too, which is the same as if you meet someone, you say they're a yuppie or they're a hippie or they're, you know, intelligent or they're, you know, an animal or whatever judgment you can make has nothing to do with them, but just about your biases. So, like it or not, what kind is it? And third one, is it any good? Is it worthy? I mean, imagine you meet somebody for the first time and they're trying to decide, we met the other night. You know, I have to. I don't think it's worthwhile. I don't like you. I don't think you're, you know, who are you? You're a reporter. You just got to open more and put away all these things. Then you get at sensing what's going on. What's this person talking about? How do they look? What do they? How do you interact with them? And you're asking them to do that with you, so that you can make something together, so that you can communicate, create, sense, be alive, be present.
Well, I mean, I would say it's also about inspiring people to be themselves. My question.
Exactly right. But if the person being themselves won't be received by you, or you won't communicate yourself if all they're doing is putting their little names on you, or you're doing that with them.
No, I think it's absolutely perfect. I mean, it's just
so that you can feel, sense, hear, and this is what we try to do every time we play. You know, and in the totally open music, which is not stylized at all, you know, the first sound that you make, it's just that sound. You're not trying to do anything other than tune in to the present moment. That's all you try to do, which takes clearing out all this static.
Well, I think what you're also, I mean, I received the Tao 6 years ago. My ex-wife was Taiwanese and had a big Chinese community here, and it fundamentally changed my my existence, and it was almost indescribable. But it's always about what you just talked about is going towards your true nature and away from your habitual nature, judgment, trying to understand something within understand somebody within the first few minutes of meeting them. What is your what is Art Lande's true nature?
I think it's heart. I mean, I went to Williams College, high level, amazing institution of learning. I mean, some of the teachers, I studied a lot of philosophy and literature and psychology and a little bit of music. And toward the end of the 4 years, I stood on the roof of my dorm and I contemplated jumping and I was watching all these films every week. There was a Bergman movie or a Buñuel, or everything was opening up in terms of what's life, what's the world, what's my place in the world. And I felt so inadequate to be a human being that I just felt like, wow, there's so much beauty and pain and just ways of being present and helpful, being kind, being sensitive. And I thought, I'm not able. I really don't deserve to be here. I mean, I love, but maybe somebody's crying in China and I can't feel it. And I felt stupid. And even I was about like, oh, this light socket hasn't been used in a long time. It's lonely. It needs to be. I need to plug something into this light socket so it feels it was made for that. And I haven't looked at the door of this room and appreciated the colors that somebody painted that, and the door sits there, or this plant, or this tree, or the sky. And I stood on this rooftop, and I had absolutely no inclination to jump at all. And I stood there for 2 hours, and I was crying. And it's like, well, I don't really deserve to be here. I'm a fake, and I'm inadequate. I'll never be able to really be a full human being, fully caring and sensitive. And then I went back to my room. I climbed through the window. Nobody even knew I was up there. And I put for an hour through that record, which is still, I can't find that darn record anymore.
I'm sorry, wait, hold on. You cut out.
It was like,
what was the record?
What I realized is, look, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes. I make errors of commission and omission every 20 seconds or more, of where I could be more what I would like a human being to be. But at least I care, and I'm gonna go with my heart, and I'm gonna do my best, even though it's doomed to not be as sweet and kind and attentive and clear and receptive and expressive as I could be. And that's the moment where I realized I'm just a heart person. That's all.
I know. This is absolutely amazing. That was, I mean, what was, first of all, you cut out there. What was the record you were listening to?
Magic of Juju. You check that record out. Archie Shep.
Yeah, that's
Impulse record with African drummers, a whole crew of African drummers, and Archie. Just that.
Oh,
wow,
man.
It's an amazing.
Oh, yeah, no, that's. I mean, I'll tell you, that is not one you're not gonna find that in the dollar bins at Goodwill. I'll tell you that much.
No, I don't know. I've kind of lost track of that record. I don't know what happened to it over many moves and years. I'd love to.
Well, I'm going to get it for you. I'm going to bring it up to you when I come up to Boulder. But we're talking to an absolute genius, Heartfire Love, Art Lande. We got a game on this program called Name That Voice. I want to put this in for you right now. This is one of my interviews, and then we'll come back and break it down.
Okay, thanks.
Are you getting into concrete music in New York, like with Moondog and recording all this? I really would love you to talk about.
Oh, I only met Moondog once. Tony Scott and I were on a corner, and Tony was playing clarinet, and Moondog was there. He was playing
Please
Moondog
tell me.
songs.
Tell me. Hold on. You were
only once.
So wait a minute. Were you playing like a little thumb piano or something? What were you playing?
No, I wasn't. I was going to say we were playing, but it's not so. Tony was playing clarinet, and we were just hanging out because we'd just seen each other in, I believe, Pori, Finland.
And Moondog was Moondog recording traffic or something? What was he doing?
He was standing on a corner, and Moondog was blind. And he was just standing on whatever that corner was that he always stood on, like, I don't know, 54th and Broadway or something. I don't remember now. That really goes back.
Well, and that's what the Jake Feinberg Show is trying to do, is to promote those, not just the characters, but I guess also the idea, like Beaver, like when did you just kind of, you wanted to incorporate that on your record, the Spirit Field?
Well, I was very much into Stockhausen and Luning and Yusachevsky and people that were Dachstader, people that were working out of electronic music studios, either in New York or in Cologne. And I was very interested in their music. And I was interested then when I came to California. I started working with Paul Beaver, and we put, I had many years I was doing musique concrète. The interesting thing about that track is I didn't mix that track. And the intention with Paul Beaver was that the electronics were to come in and orally wipe out what the music was. Totally interfere with it. And then when it would go away, the music would filter back in. So it was sort of like a dance in my head. But that is...
You have any idea who that is?
No, but he sounded familiar. Who was that?
It's probably a dear friend of yours, Roger Kellaway.
No, I heard Roger play.
Of course.
I didn't know him.
I want you to talk, because he talked about going to the Donnell Library in New York and putting electronic music into the earphones of Mel Lewis and Richard Davis while they played a trio concert. All right, this was about as avant-garde as it got. And I'm like, I know Landy must have been dabbling in electronic music, and I just wanted you to talk a little bit about your experiences integrating that into, acoustic music.
Didn't really ever come hardly from me. It's just I'm lucky if I can turn a light on, and I'm not into electronics.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think you could do more than that.
Not adept with switches and plugs and electricity. It's not my world. But I have been. I think the most interesting, fun thing that I did with that. So I loved people who did that, and Ruvisa Petro had both Mark Isham and Bruce Williamson playing synthesizers at the same time. So there was a lot of that going on, but I didn't do it. But there was a band, there was a dance company in Seattle when I was living in Seattle in late 70s, early 80s called AC/DC, a contemporary dance company, John Skinner. And the band that we had, the cello player, Eric Jensen, had, he would plug the instruments into some central thing. So I'd be playing, and suddenly my sound would be changed into just randomization. I never knew when he was going to press that button. Jamie Knapp was the trumpet player, and Eric had the control of all of our sounds, so you never knew when suddenly your sound would turn into all kind of garbage and randomization. I loved that. I loved that to give up the control to his whims, and he probably didn't know what it was causing either, but I liked that a lot. It worked really well with the dancing.
Do you believe that, you have taught in academia. We had a discussion, and you put it very succinctly about how free and how I don't know what the right word is, just how applicable your academic curriculum or lack thereof was. But, you know, the problem that I have now, I'm not a musician. I mean, I played drums, you know, non-professionally. I have a great time doing it. But my biggest issue now is just there's a couple of things going on. We obviously have a supply and demand issue as far as the amount of places to play that will actually pay musicians versus the amount of people that are being produced out of the academy, okay? And then on top of that, you have a big problem because there's a saturation of material available now, which was not available to you when Landy was cooking the groove in the late 60s, early 70s. You know, maybe you'd hear something on the radio or, you know, you couldn't rewind it. Now you have YouTube. So what happens is you got people, guitar players, horn players, and they're coming out sounding like their professor or sounding like other people. And you can't tell who is who. I'm talking about younger cats. So there's a homogenization of sound. And that to me is what made melodic improvisation so beautiful, is that everybody had their own sound when you were coming up. In fact, if somebody came to Art Lande and said, "Oh man, you sounded just like so-and-so," you'd probably want to slit your wrists. I mean, individuality was key. And I just wonder, to talk to people out there who don't have the money to go to school, who are playing with rubber bands on their saxophones, do you believe that the vocabulary of music can increase in academia or only on the street?
Yeah. I mean, these colleges, see, again, there's notions when you're not playing or you're not teaching, you don't realize what's actually going on. I mean, the level of the education is beautiful right now, and there's so much individuality, including those guys you heard play with me the other night. We realize that the old way of jazz education, you know, fitting licks to chords, is not what it's about, which is not that dumb. It was a starting point. But there's a lot of other things going on which are really helpful. And the colleges are, you know, not only providing a place for us to work, for the musicians to work, but for us to mentor in the way that was done in the street before. And I have all the people over to the house as well. You know, the students come over, they're my friends. But the atmosphere at school is and finding their sound, and we sing and we dance and we do all the kind of things to help get in touch with the person's actual being, because they're in their early 20s. They're trying to discover who the hell am I, and it's not all about music, you know. The music comes out of the people.
Oh, you're 100% right.
The teachers are realizing that. I mean, there are Cal Arts, Nevada, Reno, New England Conservatory, a bunch of great schools in Europe, in Graz, Austria, in Lausanne, Switzerland, in all kind of places, in Holland. There's real education going on, and I beg to differ. I think that the young people are playing amazing, and that they do have their own sound, and they are creating things that are off the charts. If you listen to the recording of Cal Arts student record that they make every year from last year, it'll blow your mind right out, combining with gamelan music, people using electronics, people writing unbelievable and arranging and playing at a level that's shocking. And I work with these young people, and I think everything is going great. There isn't cookie cutter. And, of course, there will be people who do that, who have their ambitions about, think that that's what it's about. But it's sure not being promoted by a lot of my colleagues who are teaching at these schools. It's not happening like that.
Well, I would say there's a couple of things.
I think that one of the great things about moving the concerts and the teaching to the universities, and people can go. People are really, if you want to play and you want to go to school, it'll be made possible. There are scholarships for everyone. We've gotten the music out of the bars and the nightclubs, which to me were, I don't drink. I'm not into people going to the thing to get drunk and to hook up with somebody of the opposite sex. I like playing where it's about the music. And, for me, it's not fun to play at a bar where nobody is interested in listening, where we can't focus and we can't communicate, and it's just this scene that was fine when it started like that. But now,
yeah, I mean, let's be. I want to, for the audience here, I want to be very clear. I'm going to go out on a limb, but Art Lande was kicking it at Slugs and the 5 Spot, and the club was. I'm doing a documentary on Stan Getz.
Yeah, but
and there was. I mean, what I'm saying is, like, I understand what you're
presenting the music. There's a lot of places that we play that are not like that.
No, but I'm saying it started. It started.
Talking at Slugs when the music's going. That was a concert. That's different. And there are still some venues like that that'll protect the musicians, and there are some in our town and some that won't, and that are still just grab bags of some people being there that aren't really present.
I think the better question is this.
There's nothing wrong with that to present it at a club, but I think that the colleges have filled a really important thing about how the music can go forward.
Well, really, I guess what I'm saying is I'm psyched that the Cal Arts Band is putting out burning music. I think that the travesty for me is that, I'm not saying that any of you guys were ever getting rich playing what you were doing, playing the music you were playing, but the significance in music in our culture in the States has fundamentally changed. And what I mean by that is that those cats who are coming out of Cal Arts are, all of a sudden the mentality of club owners is, I'd rather not hire a quintet. I'll just bring in a DJ to play records. Or if I do bring in musicians, you can pay to play or play for the door. So all of a sudden, music, which we know is unquantifiable in this data-driven time, is seen as a musician's gift to the world and no longer a profession. That to me is the danger of music, just the lineage of it. And I would say that my generation and younger, at 40 years,
I'm not a professional musician. I'm not.
I'm just going to say, I want to just tell you a story. I want to tell you this one story.
It's tribal.
It's
tribal. You play. The people who are meant to come, who want to come and hear the music, come, and the other people go and do entertainment. And that's always been true, and it'll always be.
No, I think it's.
I'm not into the whining about how much money you make. If you're a musician, your job is to make music, and to invite the colleagues and listeners into that experience. And it's not a lot of people, and it's not paid a lot of money, and it's not important on the grid of the world. Unlike it's great that you would take time to speak to somebody like me, but it doesn't matter to me, actually. I was up till 5 in the morning transcribing my buddy Paul Grabowski's piano piece that I want to play with my band today. That's my job. I don't get paid nothing for doing that. That's my commitment to being interested in something and wanting to have something fresh and vital for our rehearsal. And the people who I know who are into it, we're just doing our work. You do your work, you make it available as best you can. We're finding our own venues that seat 30 people, and people put in 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever, and contribute so that we can eat and live. But it for me, that the whole thing of trying to say, well, we should be like this or that. It's great that in Norway that somebody like Jan Garberg or Jan Christensen is given stipend by the government to be who they are. It's not happening here. Do the work and get us that great, but we're going to do it anyway, and we don't feel ignored. And we just have to do what we're supposed to do.
I guess what I'm getting at is, when I did 2 hours of interviews with Bill Cosby, and before the world caved in on him to his own detriment, and you could put a blindfold on him, and he could tell you Pete LaRocca, from Mickey Roker to Tony Williams to Max Roach, everybody had their own individual sound, Mr. Landy. And
it's
today, fundamentally, there's
because they're busy doing their work. They're not busy going out there trying to make a name for themselves. It's not that easy anymore. Anybody can make a record.
Well, no, hold on. Let's just stop right there. You said it's not that easy. What do you mean by that? It's much different than it was before, because even ECM, those record labels promoted you guys. They gave you opportunities to tour in Europe. They put money.
Exactly right.
There was radio registry. Not you were not necessarily a studio shark, but give me a break, man. We're talking about a big difference here. I have no doubt. I'm talking about a philosophical point of view here of, if you start to stifle the culture, that's great that this lab band's putting together some burning track. Nobody's going to hear it on the bandstand across the country. There's no touring circuit.
They will hear it.
If you start to stifle, but okay,
they'll hear like they hear the Knee Body Band, my favorite band in the world. This amazing band that started essentially at CalArts, that are still playing together and touring all over. You can hear it. It's not in the foreground. And people like you, which you're doing your work, who think that, hey, this should be exposed. People should
That's right.
be paid. People should have gigs. People should be heard and known. That's not our job. And the clubs are trying to make it our job. Our job is to make the music, not to be our own self-promoters, not to change the world by saying what we're doing is important. We just have to do our work on the ground. Our job is to make the music, create it, keep it.
Well, what my shows, what I've done for the last 8 years is to talk to a different generation of cats who prided themselves on individual sound, okay, and that was promoted by record labels, which created individuality. It created a profile for you. And the bottom line is that if you have a homogenization of sound, which is absolutely going on now at least at the melodic improvisation level, then you get another Hitler. That's how you get another Hitler. You talk to Larry Willis, go to Harlem. It's all gentrified. It's all pushed off the street. The culture's been pushed off the street. You go to New Orleans, it's still kind of happening. But I'm telling you right now, Landy, I'm not doing this. I do care about talking to you, because you know what? If younger cats, like my daughters, can't detect digital beats being crunched into their ears, they can't tell the difference between a machine and a human being, then that's a lack of authenticity. And if you can't tell authenticity, that's how you get another Hitler. I started doing this 8 years.
No, I agree with you about that. But this is each person. This has to do with mentoring the young people, the babies and the children. It's about education in the schools. There's a woman in Berkeley, Danielle Wirtz, who's teaching mindfulness in elementary school. But each person, there is access. I could take you, we could go on a journey to every city that in America, and I'll show you people who are playing music at an amazing level of totally not cookie cutter, whether it's at their house or at some little place that they found to make music. It's going on. It's available, but you have to live in the place and find it. You have to actually, the listener has to do the same work as the player. Where is the music? Everybody in our town knows where to go to hear it. They know.
How many times were you on the bandstand per week with Grinnelli and Swallow? I'd venture to say 3 to 4 sets a night, 4 to 5 times a week. Nobody has that opportunity anymore.
That's way more than we do. It's not about how many nights you play.
No. You know what it's about. You know what it's about. It's the fact. It's the fact that
2 or 3 nights a month.
I would.
I have bands that every week that play one concert a year.
Well, I'm not talking about 2019. I'm talking about the opportunities to play in different types of venues where you did not have amplification. Maybe you were playing out of PA systems. That's how your individual sound grew. Okay, that's how you developed identities, would be by getting it out on the bandstand. And these
I don't agree with you. I'm sorry, it's not been my experience. It wasn't the way it happened in the Bay Area in 1970. The way it happened is you go over to somebody's house. We would have a guy write a sextet chart, and I'd get a call at 7 in the morning, be it so-and-so at 10. We're playing through. This guy wrote all this music. Let's play it.
And I'll push back on you. I'll push back.
It might not. We didn't actually care about that. It could end up on a gig, but our job was to play the music. And it doesn't all happen on the bandstand. And there aren't that many gigs. Nobody's playing that much anymore. You don't have a whole week.
Therefore vocabulary and that's the problem
anymore. It's all one-nighters. And so I gear up for that. So if I have a concert in 3 months, I'm already thinking about it. I'm writing the music. I'm preparing for that. It's not all happening on the bandstand. A few of us can play more nights a week.
I'm not the president. I'm talking about the. Yeah, no. Listen, the bottom line is that whether it was the Ghost Opera or Second City, you had opportunities to gig, and maybe you don't want to acknowledge it. You were playing bingo with your calendar, and now you got Mark Levine retiring because there's no gigs left. Anyway, I also appreciate your point of view because you're out there. I'm talking about 20-year-olds wet behind the ears trying to make a living, actually trying to not starve to death. That's the point. I mean, if you go
teach preschool and ref basketball games, that's what I did. And I don't think it matters whether you make your music, make your money playing music. Making your money and surviving financially is a separate issue to me.
So alongside
I don't care about that. I taught 2-year. So I make it work, and I've been teaching people so that they can participate. And I don't make that, I make some of my money playing concerts and not.
Absolutely, and you also but you're also a very legitimate name, and the point is that and you have a lot of credibility, which allows you to teach at universities and do clinics and play concerts at the Piedmont Company for a whole weekend, and that's the crisis today: is the homogenization of sound, the lack. I mean, you can hit me to some new cats. It's just there's no. No.
You heard those guys that night that you were there.
Well, first of all, those cats. First of all, but I mean, yeah, but no, but I mean, those guys. They were unreal.
They will find their way, and they play great, and they're great people, and they will find their way.
Let me put in
with ECM, but they'll find another way of doing it. It'll work. I'm not worried about them, and or folks that are in whether media or politics who find these things important, well, fight for it then, because we have. I don't have time to do that, and these guys don't have the time to do that. We're trying to play the music that's what we're trying to do, right? And
well, I also think that there's something to be said for, like you said, reffing game. I appreciate the fact that in this time that we're in, and maybe even back when maybe you were reffing games at San Rafael High School. I don't know, but the point is, you can't.
Reffing.
Yeah, you can't make a living strictly as a musician playing the music you want to play in this day and age, and I think that's important. We have one more piece of music here.
Stop whining. The people who are really doing it are not whining about that. They're just doing it.
I dig, but I also think that you have to also. I think you have to step back and also.
If it's that important, then folks like you or folks that have more power will do something about it.
I have no power.
And there are people who do. There are beautiful people who are helping and creating venues and exposing things through interview and making things known. That's great. But we're okay.
You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay.
Prevail, and if you're interested enough, you will learn about them. You will. It's not. I understand your concern, but I'm telling you that grassroots in every town, it's happening.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, I
know about it. And
well, let's go talk to George Porter in New Orleans or Gary Bartz in New York, and let's see what they have to say about it too. Because I think you're also not factoring in. Again, you're focused on the music, and I respect that.
That's right.
But the significance
and the community and the relationship.
Well, that's true. But every region in this country had its own regional sound at one time. We're fully interconnected. I guess all I'm trying to say is we have one more piece of music here. We've made our points. I want to put this in, and we'll come back and break it down.
We have our sound out here in Colorado. You can find it and listen to it.
Take a listen to this, and we'll come back and break it down.
Okay.
Music on the Jake Feinberg Show, brought to you by Abbott Taylor Jewelers, Butch Diggs of Diggs Dental, Craig Pretzinger of Allstate Insurance, the Jewish Community Center of Southern Arizona, and the Renault Society, and Dr. Ted Goldfinger. We appreciate their support so we can play tunes like that for a decorated individualist and brilliant cat, Art Lande. You have any idea what that is?
Was that the other night also?
It certainly was not.
I don't know what that was. What was that?
That was a cover of You Don't Know What Love Is, circa 2006 at the Berkeley, California, Jazz School. Art Lande, George Marsh, and Mel Graves.
Oh, good.
And I want to know if you played Second City with, when did you first cross paths? Marsh is a dear friend, teaching at Sonoma. And Mel, his spirit is deep inside of me. Rest in peace. You know, he fought his demons. When did you first meet those cats? And can you talk about, you know, what you got off on playing with them?
Oh, they were really fantastic to play with. Yeah, it was really in the early 70s where I first met both of them. George was playing in a group called Listen and blowing people's minds by playing, instead of playing 12 bars of 4/4 time that made 48 beats, he'd play 9 bars of 5/4 time in a bar of 3. And people would be like, what the hell is going on, you know? And also Alaudin, my amazing teacher, a lot of our teachers in the Bay Area, he was involved with George and Terry Riley and all these beings that are more associated with modern music and education than Indian music. Yeah, I loved those guys, you know, and I came out and played the memorial, which for Mal, that he didn't get to go to in flesh, but he was there. I flew in and they said that he had died, and I'd written all this music that I still play for Mal for that concert, which was unbelievable. And I love George, and you know,
they're the most. Did you know
men, you know?
Did you know the Jerry Hahn?
How they were great, you know.
Yeah, well, no, I mean I'm curious about the like, because Listen was more mid to late 70s. Did you know the Jerry Hahn Brotherhood? Did you get hip to those cats? Because they were playing like behind lesbian, you know, they were playing lesbian clubs and with Mike Finnegan on organ and Jerry Hahn.
Jerry's an old dear friend. You're talking about family, babe.
What do you think I've been doing for 8 years, Landy? I mean, I've been looking for you for 8 years.
My family, they're people who do what we do. They're great people. They're all really unusual, specific beings, like you say, with their own sound and their own way of looking at the world. And yeah, I mean, Jerry Hahn, he lived here in Boulder for a while too. We had a great time when he was here. And I don't know. This is kind of the movable feast of family. No, really.
Listen, I know that you're just getting hip to me, but that's all I've been trying to do in the digital age is connect human beings in the digital age. And I know you're not a new media guy, but I'm going to take all these stories about Grinelli and about Marsh and about Brecker and all these stories, and I'm going to transcribe them, and I'm connected to all these guys on Facebook, and they're going to fly all over. It's going to bring smiles to people's faces. I Facebook Lived your concert the other night. It's got over 1,000 views. So, I mean, just, here's the point as I wrap up, because you have been so kind. This cat, Landy's was up at 5 a.m. transcribing for a gig, and we just cooked for 80 minutes. Please, 2 questions. How really directly am I able to get a hold of you? I mean, is it, I never got a response from this person you hit me to.
Phone anytime, day or night. I'm up. I don't go to bed till 5 a.m. I sleep 3 hours, and then I'm off doing my.
Because I want you to show me. I want you to. I was invigorated by the debate we had. You are on the ground. You have both feet on the ground.
I like that we don't agree on everything.
I do too.
This is the forum that we need.
Well, no, but I mean, I just want to be clear. I mean, that,
if we all see the thing the same, that's your Nazi world.
You know what? That's well, and okay. So, and then also, so you're calling you. I just want to send you some of these interviews. You don't have an email?
My wife has an email, but I'm not going to give it out in this interview.
You don't have to do that. I just want to get you some of these interviews so you can see how I've been woodshedding on this stuff, and it'll bring a smile.
It'll be fun.
Also, the
we
other
can
thing
do
is
that as long as you don't inundate her, so she becomes my secretary.
never. No. These are only the cream of the crop she's getting for you. But the other thing is, please let me.
Now, after we get off the air, I'll give you her email for that purpose.
And also, when there's a time in Boulder that you feel that you guys are going to be cooking the gumbo, let me know so I can come up and do some new media promotion for it. I would, because I like it. I like the fact that we don't agree on everything, and I want to be disproven. So let's just stay in touch, and I can get you this interview too, man. This is legacy writer. You've never done an interview like this.
Not like this exactly. I've done some strong, intense, long interactions with people. Yeah.
Well, and thank you for inspiring me the other night. You played to the heavens every tune I could close my eyes, and it was so not square. I got off on every tune, and your melodica playing was insane too, man. So, yeah, keep practicing and keep playing, man.
Okay, I got to get dressed so I can meet the band at 11 o'clock.
All right, dude. I'll talk.
Anyway,
I'll call you. I'll call you for your wife's email.
When do you want me to? How can I get you this? Yeah.
I'll call. No, I'll call you. I'll call you.
Hold on. And
no, I'll call you right back on my cell phone. Okay.
Okay.
All right, man.
All right.
Later, Art.
Thanks.
Bye, buddy.
For taking the time and take care.
Yeah, love always, man.
Love.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.